Ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by www.employeeescapeplan.com. And if you want a business problem-solving expert, you're feeling like you just keep hitting your head against the wall, you can't figure out why your business isn't growing, you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, you're looking to get to six figures and beyond, scale, marketing systems, get those pillars of success in place, I highly recommend Joe Nicasio. He's an amazing coach, amazing guy, been on my team for about 3 years now, and I just trust him, and he's just full of wisdom. His head like explodes with knowledge. I don't know how he knows all the stuff he knows. It's crazy, but he's definitely a great guy and fun to work with. Joe Nicasio, www.employeeescapeplan.com. Now, for the man of the hour. Alexander is a mad scientist who experiments with health, wealth, and relationships. He has mastered health, went on to become a fitness coach, and now helps other coaches build a successful business. He co-founded the Next Level Coaches Facebook community with over 3,500 coaches in it. In his spare time, he studies psychology and personal development, and I'm sure many, many other things. And this dude is a badass powerhouse. I am so excited to have Alexander on the show. Alexander, you ready to rock this?
What's happening, brother?
All right, dude. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on, man, and sharing your time with us and sharing your wisdom. We appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, brother.
Bam. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to dive right in, man. We're going super deep, and you are a
Let's
deep freaking guy. I know it. You're brilliant. You're genius, and we're excited to have some fun on this conversation. The theme of today is relationships are mirrors. So Alexander, how have you shown up in your relationships with other people, and how have you seen them be a mirror for you to see what's working and not working in your life, to see the blind spots, to see where you get triggered, to see, where do you show up with them? How do you show up with your clients, with the people around you, loved ones? How have you seen relationships as mirrors?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a great question. And so one of the original things that we did in our Facebook group was we interviewed people, and one of them were relationship coaches. And so they had a relationship, and they went in with the intention to use it to transform their personal lives. Right. And so over the Fireside Chat, they were sharing this story with me. And this was the first idea that I first came across, the relationships are mirrors. And I had gotten into relationships before, and they weren't always necessarily aligned, but these people had it figured out. And so I was interviewing them, asking them, like, what exactly are you guys doing right? And what they said was, the other people in our lives are not necessarily so much, trying to make us mad or trying to upset us or any of these things that we think people may be doing, as much as just trying to get their needs met. And once you get that, you see that the challenges that you're experiencing are just opportunities for growth. Wow. And they framed it in that way. And so since that moment, I started looking at my relationships, my business partners, but the clients that I brought on. And rather than saying this person has to improve or this person sucks here, I really just focused on myself and said, where can I improve? How can I compliment them? What exactly can I do to make the situation better? A great example was actually in the community that we've been building, Next Level Coaches. One of my business partners, this guy's extremely detail oriented. And I don't know about you, Chris, but my natural skill set is not being detail oriented. And I just let things fall through the cracks because of it. And I'm sharing this with him because one day, basically I had made a mistake, and he's just basically laying the hammer on me. And he said, you know what? Like, I respect that, but it's complete bullshit. And I don't know if it's cool to cuss on here, but, he said it's complete BS because he wasn't detail oriented either. And I realized in that moment that, you know what? This is something that I can learn from him. Yeah. And so now any interaction or relationship that I form in my life, I look at this person and I say, what are their strengths? How can they complement me? And how can I make sure that my weaknesses aren't debilitating? Wow. So that's that's how relationships are mirrors for me. The long-winded answer, but
dude, that was perfect. Perfect length. Perfect. So, dude, you're freaking brilliant, and I'm so excited to have a very intellectual, fun, diverse, deep conversation, because you really are very smart, dude, and I acknowledge you for your tenacity, your work ethic, because it just comes off, man. It really, you exude it, who you're being, how you show up. You're already successful, and you are destined for even more epicness. So I'm excited for this conversation. And why don't you share with our audience a little bit more about what you do in Next Level Coaches and in your coaching career in general?
For sure. So long story short was not too long ago, I like to think of life as a game, right? So it's really simple, right? Like, you got your health, you got your wealth, you got relationships. Yep. And I like to think that if there was like levels, 1 through 10, like, what level are you on? And so it wasn't too long ago that it was like 0, 0, 0 for me. And I was so unhappy. I was so frustrated. I knew I had to make a change. And the only thing that I felt that I had the most control over was myself and my health. So I'm like, okay, if I can get that down, then I'm empowered to build my wealth. Then I'm empowered to build the ideal relationships that I want. And so, that's the direction I got started in. I really had no idea what I was doing, but I set that intention. That was back in December 2015. And I think in the next month, synchronicity would have it, I bumped into Tai Lopez. He liked what I had going on, introduced me to someone named Nick Unsworth, who invited me to his conference. And one thing just started leading to another. I started meeting really great people. One of them being Russell Brunson. And Russell Brunson had an hour-long conversation with me, just one-on-one. Wow. And I was talking about things like cognitive biases, like high-level marketing strategies that I guess not too many people know of. And he was really impressed. And he said, you know what? I'm going to do for you what I wish my mentors would have done for me. And he said, I'm going to give you 2 tickets to my upcoming event, Funnel Hacking Live. And this was the very first Funnel Hacking Live that he had. So, they're very expensive tickets. And I felt so honored and blessed. So I go to that conference, and as destiny would have it, I happened to sit right next to someone who had mastered health. And not just like on a personal level, like impacting hundreds of thousands of people's lives. He formulated a health product that does over 100 million in sales in a single year. And he had just sold that to Amway. Wow. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. I literally met the master of health, the master of wealth. I was like, okay, this guy's got to take me under his wing. So over the course of that weekend, I really got to know him, and I asked him to mentor me, and he did. So from there, he helped me dial in my health. And on the back end, I came out as a fitness coach. And so as I started to get things dialed in, I think in the first month I got 3 clients. Within the second month, I already had 6 clients.
Good job, man.
And things were just clicking. Yeah. And so people started coming to me, okay, how do you build a coaching business? Like, what are you doing that's working? And I started looking around on Facebook for like other communities, see who's kind of in this space, and it just didn't exist. So I'm like, okay, clearly we need to build a community first. And so that's actually where Next Level Coaches came about. And now, so that's pretty much what's going on, is we have a community of coaches who are helping support each other and create that space to take their business to the next level.
Wow, dude, it's freaking awesome. So what are the core beliefs that drive Next Level Coaches, and what made it successful?
Sure. Yeah. So the core beliefs is basically that purpose drives everything. It trumps it all. If you're not connected to a deep purpose, in other words, like your inner voice, the message that has to express itself, there's no impact to be made. Wow. And so that's the biggest thing, is like, we're not in it for the money. We're not in it necessarily for significance. Those are all benefits of doing a great job when it comes to living out your purpose. Right. And coaching is the vehicle for that.
Damn. So that purpose is a key ingredient. What is it that had people want to keep joining? Like, what made this group successful in the beginning and, its rise and continued growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the biggest thing is actually caring. I know that sounds like very, very broad, but that idea of caring really poured over into the content that we created, into the relationships that we built, into, the moderators that we helped come on. We started with just our friends, right? The coaches that I knew, my friends and their coaches that they knew, and within 6 months it had blown up to like 3,000 coaches.
That's awesome.
So it was really coming down to having a higher sense of purpose and connecting people who shared similar struggles, across the board. I know you've probably been coaching for a while, but for anyone who's just getting started out at coaching, they have a lot of the same challenges and they feel overwhelmed. They're not really sure what to do. There's so much information out there. They feel alone. And so we just really focus on like, what are the pain points that a lot of people are solving or experiencing, and how can we solve those? So that's like the high level. And then the real specifics was value add. You'll see a lot of communities just posting in Facebook groups, like motivational quotes, like things to drive engagement, like, comment a GIF or things like that, which is good. It does drive engagement, but like, that's not a differentiator.
Right.
And so the biggest thing that we really did was make sure that we create content that is like so much value. It's unquestionable about where to come to for Facebook when it comes to coaching.
Did you know that you needed to create content that had just like extraordinary value from the beginning, and whether or not was it difficult to like set that standard, set that pace in the beginning, because it was like it would be more work? Did you have that experience ever, or was that just like it's who you were?
Yeah, no, it actually was very challenging to consistently produce great content, and it still is, to be honest with you. But that was something that we knew we had to do from the beginning. We had a buddy, Joshua Fector, and this is actually like, I credit most of our success to just modeling him. He has a Facebook group called BAMF, and, he started very similar just with his friends who are marketers. We followed a similar strategy to what he did, and it blew up. And the core thing that he did was produce like 2 like really just super high value content pieces every single week without fail. And we followed that strategy, and sure enough, it worked.
Wow. Dude, what makes content valuable? What makes good content? Yeah.
So number one is like the ability of it being consumed, right? Like, how easy can people read it? You see coaches writing these long form posts, and it's like, no one has time to read that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to write a long form post, at least make it like 1-line sentences.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest thing. And if anyone wants it, I actually have a document on how to create viral posts. It's not from me, it's from Joshua. But that's the framework that we use for our long form posts is make it easy to read and tell stories, use dialogue, write about interesting things that are happening that are like hot topics.
Bam. Love it. So when you create a dialogue and conversation with people in the group, how do you get them to take the next step deeper? How do you have them find the value and want to keep talking to you and want to sign up as a client? Like, what's that process like?
For sure. Yeah. So we like to follow the jab, 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 right hook by Gary Vee, which is basically just dropping value and asking for the sale on the back end. So we use something called Facebook bots. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Essentially, everyone that comes into the group, we reach out to them personally and we ask them, to join the bot. Once they're in the bot's going to take them through a 7-day challenge. Okay. Where by the end of the 7-day challenge, they've gotten so much value. We have a signature system called the D. Beckham model, and it stands for discovery, branding, engagement, conversion, and empowerment. Excuse me. So those are like the pillars of a coaching business. The 7-day challenge gives them a high level breakdown of that, helps them dial in whatever they weren't clear on. And then we set up calls on the back end from that. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful, man. So it's like you said, give that value up front, have them experience that value, and every step that they take, they get more trust in you, in the system. They receive the value, they receive the benefit, and at the end, they're just like, I want more. I want to know what else you have. I want to know what the next step is. I want to fast track my implementation and my execution. Like, what do I do? How can I do that? Or you just say, hey, do you need any help? Or like, I'm here for you. And they're like, oh, I want to talk. Is that what you kind of experience in that process?
For sure, yeah. And there's different phases too, right? Like right now, for example, we're launching the Inner Circle. So we have an Inner Circle every 2 to 3 months where it's like it's a group coaching, and it helps them dial in their programs. And right now I'm personally messaging everyone in the group, like just super high energy. Hey, what's up? This is what we have going on. This is the next Inner Circle. Like, let's set up a time to talk. So there's different strategies that we use. There's that one. But at the same time, not everyone's ready to join a program, right? Not everyone's even coming to join a program. Like, they might already be successful. They just want to give back. Yeah. Or maybe they just want to have connections. Or maybe they just want to stay up to date with the latest things in the coaching space. So there's more needs to building a community than just necessarily turning it into monetization. Yeah. And that's probably the biggest secret when it comes to building a community online, especially Facebook. Like, most groups, if you go in them, they're dead, or the content sucks, or it's not really a great community.
Yeah.
When you meet these other needs of basically keeping everyone up to date with the latest trends, giving people the ability to get feedback or give feedback, actually being the facilitator to connect people with each other within the group, like, all of a sudden you're really building a community here, and it gets to the point where it'll take a life of its own. And it takes a lot of energy up front. It's really tough, especially to do the value added content on top of that.
Yep.
But if you pull it off, eventually it becomes its own living thing. And it's really beautiful once that happens.
Do you think there's a time limit to, like, a momentum that makes it, I guess, straightforward or workable, doable to start a group, launch a group, and then achieve success? Like, is there like a window, or would you say that as long as you are integrating the principles and you're willing to put in the work, then you could take necessarily a more dead, so to speak, group and then bring it back to life? Or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's all relative to how many people and how quickly you can bring on people, right? So I could have started the group myself, but instead I partnered with 2 other coaches who had skill sets that I didn't. So that was something that saved me months and years on this project.
Yep.
Then we took it a step further, and we actually reached out to core influencers within the space who believe in essentially what we have going on, and we brought them on as moderators. They already know how to create content. They already know how to they already have an audience.
Right.
So essentially, when we bring them on, they bring their audience with them, and they're already creating content in the group. So it's like, no longer do we have to create the content. We now have a content machine in place with an audience that already knows and trusts the people that are creating the content.
Dude.
So
awesome. Freaking awesome, dude. I love this. So I love all this group stuff, because I'm definitely going to be starting a group here very, very soon. I already have it, but just haven't put in that time and energy to grow it, and I promise I will be. So thank you for sharing this. And everyone who's listening, definitely Alexander and Next Level Coaches, like, awesome engagement in there. Really, really great community. So I highly recommend it. And one of the things that we want to talk about today is taking that 12-month cycle, 12-month year, and then shortening that to 12 weeks. Like, how do we get a 12-month year down to 12 weeks? What does that take, man?
That's right. Yeah. And so I'm really excited for this conversation, because it wasn't that long ago. Like, me and you were both at the, I think it was the $1 Billion Body Live, like, goal setting workshop at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
We all come together, and I had seen Kevin, I think maybe a few weeks before that. And he told me that in January, he had done more business in that month than the entire year prior. And I'm like, how do you do that, bro? How do you go from an entire year of income to 1 month? And he just kind of looked at me with like this little hand gesture.
Yeah, he does that.
And he's like, look, man, I got this thing called a passion planner, and I got this thing called the 12-week year, and I just kind of put them together. And I'm like, well, what is that? And so, long story short, the next day I had bumped into another friend of mine, and this guy's like, yo, you got to get the passion planner. You got to get the passion planner. And so for me, it was like, whenever that happens in the universe, I'm like, just do it. I've learned just to listen and just do it. So that was like back in December, end of December. Then January comes. We see Kevin again, and we're in the circle. And so we're having this conversation, and sure enough, he's like, he's bringing up the 12-week year again. So I'm like, okay. At that point, I had to get the book, and that was a few weeks ago. Obviously, we're in February now, and it's really interesting. And I wanted to bring this up because my challenge is that I tend to see a lot of opportunity. Right? I think there's just so much opportunity out there, and it's a great strength, and it's also very dangerous when you don't understand how to focus on what a real opportunity is. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on here, because there's opportunities out there, but that doesn't mean that it's the right time for them. There was a couple months ago where I was trying to start like crypto, right? I was like getting into this coaching group. I was trying to do my own coaching business. I was doing like this weird side project of like building ClickFunnels. Like I was trying to do way too much, and the result was I was very ineffective. And when I look at what happened in my health, when I was able to jump like dramatically, it was when I really lasered in and focused in on just a few key things that actually made a difference, right? Just making shakes every night. How simple is that? Well, I just made sure I did it. I didn't try to do this crazy diet. I just did one thing, and it made a dramatic difference. Same thing in the gym, same thing with my sleep. So when it comes to time, it's something that I feel a lot of entrepreneurs experience is like, ooh, an opportunity. When the fact of the matter is that really there's only one or two opportunities in front of you right now that's really going to take your life to the next level. And the 12-week year is essentially finding that, deciding that that's where you're going to focus on, and having the courage to let go of everything else. And that was the scary part, is actually making that decision. And so, I'll give you a great example. So I actually live in Los Angeles in this current moment. Now, a week ago, I was supposed to go up to San Francisco to map out a place, like do this whole Airbnb business where, I get a room, but I Airbnb the other ones to pay for it. And it's just this whole other business. And I thought it was like such a great idea. And I had set this up like a month ago. Mind you, this was before I read the 12-week year. Now, I'm supposed to go with a friend. We planned the whole thing out. The week comes of it, I had just finished the 12-week year, and I realized that this was just a shiny object, a shiny opportunity that I was chasing, and it actually didn't make sense. And this was a very close friend of mine, and I'm like, I have to make a choice right now, and I have to tell this guy no. And so I did, and instead I went to San Diego, and I came down here. I met with my actual business partners, All Next Level Coaches, and from that, like an incredible opportunity came on the table for us to like make way more money at the same time. Now it looks like I'll be moving down here. So just that decision of focusing on one or two things that's really going to make the biggest difference and just saying no to everything else has been a game changer for me. And I'm just getting started in this idea. So that's like the beginning of it. Does that make sense on your end, or like, do you have any questions from where to take that?
So, I heard focus on a real opportunity, how to know what that is. So this principle of the 12-week year, one of the core tenets is like focusing on one thing at a time and just going all out with that, and making sure that we stay in alignment and having the courage to say no to other things, to the shiny objects, to the distractions. So I think that all makes sense, and I think the next logical step is how do we actually build that logical case in our mind of the 12-week year and turning those 12 months into the 12 weeks, and like what do we focus on? How do we create that structure? How do we create that rhythm, so to speak, to create momentum?
For sure. So let me ask you this question: is if you had to compress a week into a day, what would you be doing with your time? Like, if you literally only had one day to get a week's worth of work done, how would you spend your time?
I would spend it the most efficiently, effectively possible. I'd plan out what I'm going to be doing. I would stick to it rigorously, religiously, and execute. And by the end of the day, like, celebrate like a powerhouse because I did it and I ran through the finish line and I got it all done.
Exactly. And so that's the first question, is like compressing a full week into a day, because essentially what's going on is our goals, our visions are like somewhere way beyond where we can really touch or hold them. When you say that, you only have 3 months to reach something, you can actually, then it becomes tangible and you now have a deadline to work towards it. Yeah. So that's the first thing, is realizing that you only have 3 months to reach this goal and setting a deadline on it and committing to it. That's the first thing. The second thing is then writing out every single way to possibly reach that goal. Like all of them. Brainstorm as many as you possibly can. And once you've done that, just decide on only 3. And I know you might be thinking, what? There's no way that only 3 ways, can reach this goal. But the fact of the matter is that every week, if you just do 85% of what you're supposed to do, so you don't have to be like an A+ student, right. 85%, the statistics show that you'll reach your goal. No. So what are the 3 that are going to make the biggest difference? You choose those 3, and those become your tactics. And it's important to write them down as action steps. So in other words, they begin with a verb. And so, for example, right, like mine with Next Level Coaches is to build an inner circle of 12 badass coaches by March 15th, 2018. So that would be the tactic. So you have your goal, your tactic to reach the goal, and then you have your weekly action plan. So like, what are you going to do this week to implement that tactic? And that's how you create a weekly plan. And you just track that plan. At the end of the week, you look back and say, hey, did I do what I was supposed to this week? And then you plan the next week. So I know it's kind of a lot there. It is kind of heady, but this single fact like changed my life. Yeah. If you just plan, you save 20% of your time by planning. I know a lot of people are like action takers. Gary V's like, just hustle, fuck planning. You don't need that. And it's true to a certain sense. You need momentum. You need that action energy. But if you don't plan this thing out, like there's no way that you're really going to get to the next level. And that's why I'm like, how does Kevin compress a year's worth of income into a month? And the answer is because he got super clear on how to actually make that happen. And so the 12-week year is a framework for that. And so it's goals, tactics, weekly plans.
Dude, beast. So just to recap, because there was a good amount there, it's how do you compress a full week into a day? So like we talked about what that would take is, plan. We're going to brainstorm out every single way you're going to reach that goal. So we have a goal in 3 months that we want to achieve, 12 weeks. And like, what kind of goals would we be setting for that? I mean, I'm sure it's going to be different for everyone. Is that like a project-based goal? Is that an income-based goal? Is that what do you typically find would work best, or what are some suggestions?
Yeah, so find the one area of your life that you want to have the most improvement in.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. And just choose one goal for that area. Okay. And I would say like leave it at one goal, because you can focus in many different areas. You can have more goals, but usually the foundations the fundamentals are what you want to get good at before you try to hit trick shots. And reaching one goal would be super fundamental. So what's the biggest area that you want to have the most improvement in? Your health, your business, your relationships. Okay. And then when it comes to the goal of that is, what is a specific and measurable / stretch result that you would like to create over the next 12 weeks?
So let's take spirituality, for example.
Okay.
What if we wanted to be more effective with our spirituality and be more connected, more in tune? What would be like a goal that we could create around, I don't know, meditation or spirituality? What would that look like?
Sure. So how would we measure spirituality?
It's a good question.
Yeah. So maybe there's like, maybe you can get like one of those like headbands where you like measure your brainwaves. That could be one thing to reach like a certain
brainwave state.
State by that third month.
That's badass.
That could be something. The biggest thing is it has to be measurable. And the reason being is because like you can track it as you go. If you don't know that you're making progress, you're probably not going to follow through, So that's the biggest thing, is like it being measurable. So for spirituality, let's say we had one of those headbands, say it's a certain wavelength, then we would set that as the goal. The tactics would be to meditate every day for 90 days.
Right.
And then the weekly plan is, okay, when I wake up, I'm going to, part of my morning routine, do this at this specific time in this specific location for this specific reason. And then it's just a matter of doing it. And at the end of the day, you're tracking, did I do it? And at the end of the week, you say, okay, I did it each day. I did 100%. This week's on track to now reach my overall goal.
Wow. Okay. So we break down the goal into the weeks, because there's 12 weeks. So it's really clear to get precise on what it's going to take. For example, let's say it's a revenue target. I know we have a lot of people who want to earn more revenue. Usually that comes from, like making calls or strategy sessions. It's like, what's the activity? First, we got to figure out what the activity is. It might be calls. It might be sending messages. It might be taking, like, what is there any other activities you can think of to get people onto calls or to get people into strategy sessions?
Yeah. Messaging people, calling people.
Yep.
Maybe setting up like a 7-day challenge. There's different activities for sure. But yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing, is like most people plan with like this like, and I actually used to do this, is like you plan with this arbitrary / high level strategy, which is valuable, but most of the time they do it without the intention of actually implementing it. So a plan is only a solution to a problem that you're trying to solve, right? Like there's a certain amount of money that you're trying to make. Why? Because there's a problem that you have that money's going to solve. And so the plan is just saying, this is how I'm going to make that money, or this is how I'm going to solve this problem. And so the how is always coming down to action steps and the specific activities. And I find that most people just aren't clear, and this was myself included, on when I'm going to do something, why I'm doing it, where I'm going to do it, what specifically I'm doing, and when I'm doing it. So once you're clear on that, it's just a matter of doing it. It's really just a matter of doing it at that point.
You said it was when, why, where, and how I do it?
So what you're doing, why you're doing it, when you're doing it, where you're doing it. And I think those are the
who, what, why, when, how, where, how.
Exactly. Yeah. Who's doing it? Well, you. So
love it. Cool. So that's, I think that power of clarity to plan out, what does it look like when I do it? who's engaged, where am I at? Is it in my house? Am I at the office? Am I traveling? Am I in a car, making calls while I'm en route to places?
For sure.
So that's really powerful to know that, because what is the optimal environment that it's going to be done in? And also the why, getting connected to the why. What's the main reason or the top 3 reasons why I'm doing this, that I can, remind myself and program myself to remember, to feel, to be when I'm doing this, to keep that momentum up. So if I do get discouraged or off track or forget or whatever, just really get back to that state,
That's right. Exactly.
Dude.
Exactly. Because, like a lot of people are into manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And what is manifestation really? Like, what's the foundational principle? That it begins in your mind
Mm-hmm.
before reality. Like,
Yeah.
This whole fireside chat was once in our mind before it's here, right? And so it's the same thing. Like, if you're taking into account your goal and you're visualizing the end result, well, that's great. But what are the specific activities that are going to produce that result? Mm-hmm. And if you have that in your mind, essentially that's your plan, and now you can manifest the outcome on the back end.
Yeah, dude, powerful. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's keep it rolling. What other principles do we need to know about making this happen, or have you found is effective in understanding or relating to this with?
Yeah. So again, I think the biggest thing is actually having support as well. Like, are you jumping on a weekly call with a coach or a close friend who you can do this with? Because, part of it is accountability, but the other part really is just being able to bounce ideas off of someone else. You're learning, you can fool yourself, but it's not always easy to fool others, right? Like,
and it's easy to say, oh, that didn't work, and go back to that like old routine, versus if you're like, fuck, it didn't work. Hey, what do I do?
Exactly. And so what happens is, you can check yourself at the end of the week with this person and say, was it my plan that was messed up? Or did I actually just suck at executing this week? Because most of the times it's actually not the plan, it's the execution.
Yep.
And so when you're with someone, they can help you be real with yourself. So that's one thing, is getting support. The other thing that they talk about that I found really important. And so I have a mentor, as I shared with you, this guy who's just crushing in business. He's actually in crypto now. And he takes on so many different projects. It's ridiculous. And yet he's able to stay focused and clear on each one. And I asked him, I'm like, how exactly do you do this? And, he gave me this long-winded answer that I'm giving you now. But more than anything else is he is not necessarily held accountable, because I asked him, I'm like, do you have a mentor? Like, who's your mentor? You know what I mean? And he's like, no, I don't have a mentor. So I'm like, who's holding you accountable? And he shared with me an idea that was really interesting, and that I find all the highest performers hold to, which is they're accountable to themselves. In other words, there's this whole element of discipline when it comes to building a business or dialing in your health, or really any area that we want to improve. And oftentimes we need social proof. We need like a group setting. We need these different levers to like force us to act how we
don't
really
have anywhere else to go. Just
exactly, like just go in that direction, because now you have no other choice. And yet these super high performers, they don't need that, because they're super clear on what they're there to do, who they are, and what their purpose here is. So that accountability I find just absolutely powerful. If you can learn to train yourself to say, you know what, like, I'm holding myself accountable. Because I'll be honest with you, like, taking the time to sit down for like 15 minutes to plan out your week is a little bit challenging at first, but if you can do it, it feels great. And then when it comes to the week, you just say, this is what I'm doing at this time, and you commit to it.
Yeah.
It's like a muscle in the gym. You flex it, it gets bigger.
Yeah.
and you keep doing it and it gets easier.
I think you said something around this, but like identity, who do you know yourself as? Like, what do you expect of yourself? What's your relationship with yourself, with your word, with your integrity, with your systems, with your plans? It's like, start inviting ourselves to be like, I can count on myself. I'm enough. I am in integrity. I keep my word. I execute on my calendar. I execute on the systems that I've developed, and I trust myself. And when I don't make myself wrong. I don't guilt and shame myself. I get back on track, or I ask for help. I get that accountability like you were mentioning to make sure I stay on track, man. That's freaking gold.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude,
100%.
Beautiful. So, like, what other high performance, what else do you believe about being a high performer? Since you associate with these people, you're a high performer. Like, what else do we need to know about being that high performer who executes, who crushes it, who runs through the finish line, who wins the gold medal, who just lives life to the fullest, man?
Yeah. So, one thing that I love about your podcast is it says your greatest potential self,
yes,
or your GPS. Like,
yes.
I love that. And so I believe that everyone has an internal GPS as well. And so if the biggest key when it comes to being productive or really just optimizing your life is being in tune with that inner self. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that we've all come here with a greater purpose and plan that we don't exactly know, but we'll find out on the back end. It's kind of like this quote by Steve Jobs that says, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And I kind of feel like that's how our life is that there's certain things that bring us joy. There's certain things that really spark us and get us lit. And we're like, let's go.
Yes.
There's certain things that really do that for us. Yeah. And if we learn to just, silence the fears, the opinions, the other people who just do not experience life as we do, like, just let go of that and tune into this inner voice, I believe that we will find our calling, our purpose, and what we're here to do. And there's so many people who are just living out what their parents wanted them to do, what they think they'll get recognition for, or these other things that don't matter as much as what's going to bring them fulfillment. When I was 13 years old, I almost committed suicide because I was so lost. I'm like, why are we here? What is the purpose of life? I saw most people just going in this trance of going to work, picking up the kids, going to eat, turning on the TV and going to sleep. And it was rinse and repeat, but I never saw any real purpose there. And so what I've learned is that we kind of come here with our own inner GPS. And so if you want to be productive, if you want to be, optimizing your performance, I can give you time hacks. I can give you the 12-week year. I can give you health hacks, help you biohack, get your ideal body, all this great stuff. But at the end of the day, the question is are you following your path? And if the answer is yes, then all this extra stuff is just, icing on the cake.
Wow. Dude, I love that because it comes full circle back to where you started about the group, and it's like purpose before everything else. Is if we're clear on that, then everything else is just it's easy. Like you said, icing on the cake. You're going to do whatever it takes. And yes, we have some tools and some strategies and some pathways for you to get there. And are you clear on who you are and why you're doing this so that you show up and I don't have to come chase you?
Exactly.
We don't chase.
We don't chase. No, exactly.
That's powerful, man. Powerful. So, I'm curious, what other defining moments have you experienced recently? Anything else opening up that gave you some wisdom, that really propelled you forward, that had you show up as your GPS?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been sharing this story recently because I shared it with a friend and it dramatically changed her life. So I've been trying to share it more often.
Awesome.
And it has to do with faith, right? So there's certain elements of our lives where we have to make this leap of faith. It's like a common expression. Well, I believe that in order for all of us to get to the next level, we have to make this leap. And so a couple years ago, around that time where my life was zeros, one of the things that I had done was bought a motorcycle. And everyone always tells you in a motorcycle, like when you tell them that you drive a motorcycle, they always tell you, well, it's not a matter of if you're going to crash. It's just a matter of when. Mm-hmm. And it's just so weird that people have this mindset, but you know how the subconscious goes. You plant enough seeds and sure things manifest.
Yep.
So one day I'm walking out of the bank. I'm like going into the parking lot to my motorcycle. And there's this guy standing there. He's standing right by my motorcycle, and it's really odd. And I'm going up to my bike. I'm like, I get on it, and the guy starts talking to me. He's like, "Is this your bike?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he starts telling me all these stories about people crashing their bikes. And I'm like, "Dude, come on, bro. Like, you have nothing better to do with your time?"
Oh.
So I put my helmet on. I turn on my bike. I tell the guy to have a nice day. And I start driving up the street. Okay. And I'm going up the street. And so I'm approaching the intersection. The lights are green. So I'm about to go through the intersection. Well, the only other car there is a car that's about to make a left. Okay. So lights turn green. They're making a left. I'm going through the intersection. Well, last second, this car decides that they're going to make a right. And that's right where I was.
Oh my God.
So I see this about to happen, and all of a sudden, like, my adrenal glands just like ignite. I'm like, I'm about to die. Fight or flight kicks in. I'm like, okay, shit just got real. And I turn my bike almost like a movie where like I start drifting the bike to try and slow it down as much as possible. Well, as much as I try to slow it down, it was not slowing down. And I knew for a fact I was going to hit this car. And it was in that moment where I had a serious choice. I knew that I could potentially die. And I had really one of two things to do. One, hold on to the bike and try and like grasp for dear life onto everything that I held as true, or lean into the energy of it all and have faith. And that's exactly what I did. Was rather than try and hold on to it, last second, I threw the bike and actually jumped off of it and flew over the car and landed perfectly on my feet. The bike slams into the car, completely disintegrates. And I see this all happen as I'm standing on my feet. I'm like, I am so blessed. And the whole story and the lesson in that is that I could have held on and tried to stay where I was, right? We're all at a current level. We can stay where we're at. But life has this way of putting things in our situation where we have to make a decision. And if we try to hold on, if I would have held on to that bike, I would have slammed into the car and probably died. Now, I didn't. I let go, and faith would have it that I perfectly flew over the car and landed on my feet. So it's a great story because it shows you that when you lean into life, when you take that leap of faith, you come out on the other side perfectly okay with a lesson and a great story to tell and help other people. So that's probably one of the biggest things I share with people is like, if you're in that moment, if you feel like you got to take a leap of faith, boom, you can do it.
Dude, it's freaking epic, man. Okay, so first off, we have Jerome who said, if you don't follow your inner guidance and purpose, your body will let you know by stress, aches, and pains. So, Jerome, thanks for sharing that, man. And Alexander, dude, your like communication ability is like redonkulous, freaking on point, man. It is like fiery. I'm curious. We're curious. That story is gold, man. And like I felt chills listening to it, honestly. And what is it that has you be such an effective communicator? How do you do it, man?
Yeah, so that's another story. I was not always great at telling stories. In fact, it was really funny. So I have a friend who's a master practitioner of NLP, and all he does is tell stories. You're with him, like, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a story told. And so, I had brought on 2 clients in my fitness coaching at this point. And one of them was a young guy who's doing really well in the mortgage business. And my master practitioner friend was like role modeling everything that he did because he wanted to have the same level of success as him. So he finds out that I brought on this guy as a client. And of course, he became a client. He's like, I want to become a client.
Yeah.
So we meet up and I show him how to meal prep. I do the full 9. And he says, okay, he's impressed. He's like ready to become a client. And I think I have him sold already, right? I'm like, this guy's going to pay me. I already know it. So he asked me, why should I go to you as a fitness coach? And I start listing all the logical reasons of why I should. And he just like stops me dead in my tracks. He's like, just stop. Like, stop right there. He's like, why should I go to you? Like, what's your story? Like, who are you as an expert? How can I trust you? And he starts asking me these different questions. And he's like, you got to tell me that in a story. And I'm like, okay. And I was like kind of lost because I didn't know what he really meant. So he's like, you know what? Just sit on it. We're going to go to lunch. And afterwards, like, we'll talk about it. So we go to lunch. In the back of my mind, I'm trying to like piece together my story. Like, this is what happened. This is, you know, well, I think I got it. So lunch ends. Of course, he asked me the question. And I share with him the story similar to what I share with you guys of how I met Tai Lopez and then Russell and then my mentor who showed me the ropes in fitness. And he's like, okay, like this part was good. This part was bad. This is where you can improve. But you've got a good heart, so I'm going to become a client anyways. I'm like, okay, yes, you know. But in doing so, he really shared with me the importance of storytelling. And that importance being that all shift happens unconsciously, right? All shift happens unconsciously. And as coaches, our job is to create transformation. And so how do you make shifts happen subconsciously? The answer is tell stories. And as crazy as that might sound, it's been profound. You know, I shared that story about the motorcycle with my friend who was in a challenging place. She didn't know what to do about making the decision to leap. Sure enough, she did. And I didn't say, hey, like my old self would have said, hey, this is what you should do. Just go for it anyways. Like, give her all the energy, you know, like, boom, like just make a decision. But instead I tell her the story and it gets into the subconscious. And so kind of the same thing here is like, if you want to help people really transform their lives, you've got to commit to becoming a great storyteller because that's the only way that change really happens. And so I internalized that. But then when I started going to conferences like Tony Robbins, Tai Lopez, these other guys, whatever, they only tell stories. And I'm like, it's not a coincidence. So that was like the big wake up call for me. And since then, it's just been a matter of like telling my story. Any chance that I get, tell it as often as possible. And through that, I've refined it. I've improved it. But that's where it all stemmed from, was actually from a client who took me aside and said, hey, bro, this is how you do it.
Dude, that's awesome. Do you have any resources or recommendations on where to go or how to improve our storytelling?
Yeah. So someone by the name of Dr. Matt James, he owns NLP.com. You guys can check him out. He has plenty of trainings on it.
Legit.
Yeah.
Dude. You're awesome.
You're awesome too, bro.
Okay, so we're wrapping it up, man. We've covered a lot, and let's take it home. Let's wrap this up with a fucking epic bow, and take it home for these peeps. What are we walking away with? What's the new reality we get to step into because of this interview?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the biggest thing is making decisions. Just make decisions and trust yourself. And the only way that you do that is through doing it. I had to make a decision to not go to San Francisco and come to San Diego. The world opened up for me. I had to make a decision to like cut people out of my life. That opened doors for me. I had to make a decision to let go of many projects and just choose one that I really cared about. And that opened doors for me. So that's probably the biggest thing, is make decisions, let go of the outcome, learn from them, and keep making decisions.
And then tell your story. Tell yourself stories about making decisions so you can make more decisions.
Exactly.
I love it, man. I love it. So, Alexander, how do we stay connected with you, and what do you want us to do next, man?
Yeah. So check out my Facebook profile. Go ahead and add me as a friend. Just say, hey, once you add me, just send me a message saying I saw you on, the Burn It Up coaching.
Yeah.
Like, cool, we'll connect. And then if you're a coach and you're looking for a community, you're looking for direction, just type in Next Level Coaches, and we'll see you there.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Dude, Alexander, you are a fucking powerhouse. Keep up the amazing work. We are excited to see you grow on your journey, man. And I acknowledge you for being driven by your purpose, really caring deeply about people and going the extra mile and sharing all this wisdom. Dude, you're just all about giving. And we can feel it, man. We can feel your heart. Thank you for who you are in the world, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having the energy and stamina and the courage to do 12-hour just marathons. So we appreciate your work, brother. Thank you.
Man. Thank you, man. We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Peace.
Take care, brother.